Hey there, I'm Lawrence from EVA Cosplay, and today is part 2's video of Zack's shoulder pad.
So in this video, I'm going to go over how I make the scratches on the shoulder pad, as well as how I have the trim and the square detail that goes right here. In the beginning, I used strips of craft foam, which I made from sheet of craft foam using a steel ruler as a guide. Now if you don't like cutting strips of craft foam like I do, an alternative I found is leather strips. Now this comes in 2mm, which is the perfect size. It has good flex property, and it works great for little details like this. The leather strip can be attached onto the foam using some super glue. So you can either make your own strips or use the leather strips. Either ways. There's actually a third alternative in which I use for all my details, and I'm going to show you that right now. So the third method, and the method I currently use now, is my vinyl cutter. So I start off with a piece of craft foam on the cutting mat and then feed it into the vinyl cutter. Now you'll see this button flashing. If I press that button, it'll feed the cutting mat into the vinyl cutter. Now the next thing you'll see is the cut button flashing. If I click that button, it's going to start the job. Now this is a much more involved process than what I'm showing here. So if you want to see a video on how to work one of these, let me know in the comments down below. Now I'm going to take my workpiece back to my bench and peel off the negative. And what you will see is exactly what we just cut. I did the same thing for the square details, except I didn't cut it all the way through with the vinyl cutter, so I'm going to come back with the knife. Now I'm going to take the details I just cut and put it onto a scrap sheet before applying the spray adhesive. So the spray adhesive I use here is a Loctite 200, as you've seen in my other videos. And then I'm just going to apply the spray adhesive to the details. I'm going to do the same thing and apply the spray adhesive to the shoulder pad as well. Now that both surfaces have the sprayed adhesive, I can just easily put on the details like so. So for the trim details, I'm just going to go ahead and apply a second coat of sprayed adhesive just to make sure there's enough adhesion when I go to put it on. And then I'll do the same thing for the other side as well. And we're almost done. I'm going to apply one more coat to the collar before putting on the collar's trim. Because the foam is so thin and it stretches, you have some overhang at the seams. That's not an issue, you can just come back and trim that off with a box cutter. And then reinforce the seam with some super glue. And I'll do the same thing for the trim on the collar. Now when I put the battle scars on the armor, I consider where the character wears the armor and where the damages will be inflicted. Now grab your box cutter, make sure it's sharp, and start adding the scratch marks. Now this is the back of the shoulder pad, so you should expect more battle scars there. Try your best to randomize the cuts, and imagine yourself wearing this armor and where you would take the damages. Make sure you vary your battle scars between short cuts and long cuts, and deep cuts and superficial cuts. Once that's done, I'm going to heat it with a heat gun. This will cause the foam to expand and you'll really see the battle scars stand out then. There you can see the variation in cuts that I was talking about earlier. So in my opinion, the cuts were a little too uniform, so I came back with some lighter cuts just to give it some variation. So here you can definitely see the deeper cuts, and the superficial cuts, they're a little subtle, but it definitely makes a difference when you see it in person. So the reason why I didn't fix the seam first is because once you put the quick seal on it and you add the battle scars, when you heat it with a heat gun, it's going to come right off. So that's why you want to add the battle scars first before you clean up the seams. Now I'm just going to plastic dip it. Make sure you wear your respirator.
Okay, so this is the plastic dip version. I just did it outside. This is just one coat, so I'm gonna go back and hit it again with another coat. But as you can tell, here's all the details. You can see it. So that concludes part 2 for Zack's shoulder armor. Part 3, I have not determined when I will do that yet, but that will probably be the belt, in which most of you will be interested in. So I'll keep you guys updated. Follow me on Instagram. I'll post stuff there. So other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys, and don't forget to subscribe.